You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers and other important people from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week, we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. Well, this week, we're going to continue our conversation with Mr. Patrick Ryder, the Commissioner of Police with the Nassau County Police Department, to talk about law enforcement issues across our county. Now, if you missed our first show, you can find it by searching for WHPC and this week's Long Island News, wherever you listen to podcasts. Mr. Ryder, welcome back to this week's Long Island News.
Glad to be here.
There's so many things that I can think of to bring up, and you are in like a pivot spot. You're not even, like I told the previous, they're like a shortstop. You got it worse than a shortstop. You're like a shortstop playing 3 games at the same time.
Yeah, it's nonstop.
Yeah, because again, they call them emergencies because you don't know when it's going to happen. And I can't imagine how many times do you get woken up in the middle of the night.
Too many times.
And
then you have your own kids and they're going to call you something, you don't know what the phone when it rings at 3 a.m, what it is. And, I have a son that's a cop, so he's out there and working nights. My daughter's a nurse and my other guy's a DEA agent. So, they're out there and they're doing their thing and then all of a sudden there's a panic and the phone rings and you're like, and then you hear, we're down at power at a public safety building. That's where all the 911 communications. So we're on generator power. So if the generator goes, we got a problem.
Right.
So we got to go to our backup. And we start bussing people around, and these things happen. And usually a car just takes out a pole, and my day changes like that.
Yeah, right. Wow. Let's do a dive. We'll dive into the most talked about issue affecting not just us locally, but the entire world. That's the Israel-Palestine conflicts and the college protests that have come as a result of it. Now, along with anti-Semitism across the country and Nassau County, what's your take on what the police are doing about it locally?
So since 9/11, we have every Tuesday we meet, and we call it Terror Tuesday because it started from a terrorist attack, and it's Tuesdays. So it's Terror Tuesday. In that meeting, we bring all of our homeland people, all of our specialty units, our intel side, FBI's in the room, the DEA, not the DEA, FBI's in the room, railroads in the room, other college campus security people in the room. And we talk about the global perspective on what's going on in the world. Then we look at a national perspective. Then we go down to a state and then down to a local business at hand, complaints and threats and everything that's happening. And when you educate yourself on it, you start to understand there's the war between Israel and Palestine and what's going on over in Gaza. You got to get a balance, right? So we have a very large Jewish community, but we also have a very fast growing Muslim community here in Nassau County. And then, of course we have a very large Catholic community. So you're trying to make a balance that you're not showing one way or the other when it comes to what we do as law enforcement.
Right.
I'm not the person with the strong opinion. I have my opinions. I keep them to myself, because I have to serve all of the people out there equally and fairly. But with the current war, it's caused a lot of uproar in this country. You see what's going on in our college campuses. Yep. You see what's going on with protests. We had one 2 weeks ago in Eisenhower Park. It was a pro-Palestine march, and they walked through the park and they were peaceful. We have very strict rules when it comes to it, but we get the respect from the protesters. You stay peaceful, we can walk all day. We follow some rules, we're all good.
Right.
You don't want to stay peaceful? Done. We have a zero tolerance. You're not going to commit criminal mischief. You're not going to cause violence. Right. And if you want your message to get across in expressing your First Amendment rights, you should do it peacefully. You have that right to do it. We let you exercise that right. We give you a lot of latitude, but there are times to say, okay, enough. That's got to stop. You can't do this. Otherwise, you will be arrested.
Yeah.
We get compliance. We've been fortunate that way. We did it over 365 protests during the George Floyd times.
Right.
And no violence, no criminal mischief, and very, very, very few arrests. I think we had 6 in thousands of people that protested.
Wow.
One day alone, 6,000 people. So we have a good balance.
Got a handle on it.
Yeah, my cops know to go out, engage. They're not the enemy. They're exercising that constitutional right. So don't make them the enemy.
Yeah, right.
Start engaging. If they want to become the enemy, they'll do things that are criminal.
Right.
And I would say the enemy. They've broken the law, and now things have to happen.
Yeah.
But we get a good compliance, and we've been lucky that way.
I think one of the things that, and it's just watching some of the protests, their guys' faces are totally covered. They're totally masked. And I'm seeing this guy, the one I'm particularly talking about that I saw in a news coverage someplace, and he's making the demands. And I'm thinking, well, does the rest of the group know about this, for starters? And who are you? I would say if you want to protest, if you feel that strongly about, and then you're going to hide your face.
Yeah.
How about we put out and this is the DJ talking, not the police commissioner. I say, how about we shoot everybody that's got a mask on at a protest? Well, I would just like to hear that message go through the crowd and see those people disappear.
But so
because that now you've been
to spin on that.
Yeah. How many crowds have been overtaken?
Right.
But that wasn't our intent. We were just trying to say this is a problem.
Spin the opposite of the extreme, but take it the other way, which is kind of the world we're living in now. There's no penalty. They've taken up these campuses and they've,
right.
We're not leaving until we get our demands met. What demands? You're a student out of college. You paid your tuition to get an education. Right. And then the faculty gets involved, and the faculty saying, we're supporting the students. Again, you're here to provide an education. I paid this to have my kid go to that school to get an education. But I get it, right? Because they do have their First Amendment right too. Mm-hmm. So, but when you look at these crowds, a large percentage of them don't even go to the school.
Right.
They're just agitators that show up and want to cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are paid protesters. We've heard it all said over and over. They're paid. George Soros and the extreme left. Nobody knows for sure. I'm sure there is parts of that the FBI or the government knows what's going on. But on a local level, I'm handling 50 kids, 100 kids, 300 kids, 1,000 kids. Right. I don't know who's a student, who's not a student. I just know that I got to keep these kids
we don't want anybody
under control, and at the same time, I got to keep them safe.
Right.
When a counter protest comes,
right.
And you say to a counter protest, "Oh, now you're sticking up for them." I'm not sticking up for anybody.
Right.
I'm just drawing some lines here in the sand that we got to keep each other on this side to protect each other, because violence is not one. And after a while, cooler heads prevail, and they go on their way. You give them time.
I've told people that's our favorite statement. Cooler heads prevail. I think if we look at so many of these things, it would be a wonderful thing if it was cooler heads that were talking about those things.
But they're not. They are, again, some of them are paid, and some of them are professional agitators that just want chaos.
Right.
And they want to go in and stir the pot. And watch what happens. We've seen it in our protests. They push, so I got 25 kids that are Hofstra students, and I'm just using Hofstra as an example.
Yep.
They're good kids, and, they want to exercise. They want to be part of this movement. Okay. They're going to go out there and they're going to peacefully hold the sign up and say, we support whoever.
Right.
Then the agitators come, and the agitators start pumping them up and start yelling and screaming. The agitator stays back a row, pushes the kid forward. The agitator will throw the brick from the back, and the kid in the front will get arrested.
Right.
And that's where it all, and then they disappear into the woodwork, and so that's what a lot of these kids, I get it, what you're trying to do, but be careful you don't get sucked into that world, because you'll get arrested for something somebody else did because you're part of that protest.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm with George Carlin on this. George said he loved people, and but he liked them one at a time.
Yeah.
When you put them in groups, you got a whole nother, and I identify with that. I used to drive limousines, one of my many jobs that I've had in my lifetime. And you get 10 prom kids in a car, and they have a different demeanor than when you get to talk to each one of them
Absolutely.
Individually, they're wonderful. But you need one bad apple, and you got a bad mom.
We call them beer muscles, right? You go and all of a sudden I got my muscles on because I had a couple of drinks in me.
Yep.
Hey, buddy, go home, sleep it off. Let's talk tomorrow. And then we'll see how your tone changes.
And, we were the guys driving limousines for proms. We were the guys on the front lines then.
Yeah.
Because we had to police those kids.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many original ways that I've come across of kids trying to get booze into that car.
You got to try.
I had one kid that had a thing on his ankle, a little container, and he had you use for fish tanks. That's the thin hosing right up to the lapel button in his suit, and he could just lean over and take. It was amazing, very funny. But you're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and my guest today is Patrick Ryder, the Commissioner of Police with the Nassau County Police Department. So I have I got another question. They're talking about Project 21 initiative.
Yes.
We saw a recent arrest from this area. What is that all about?
So when you look at Nassau County and its major crime, the big crimes, right? We are the safest county in America 5 or 6 years in a row. We continue to lower crime on a major side. But the quality of life crime that we all see, shoplifting and stuff, goes up. One of those quality of life issues is selling alcohol or marijuana products to those that are under 21. That's the law.
I got you.
So we go in and we use our undercover explorers or kids that we get from programs. And we say, hey, you're going to go in and you're going to try buy the booze.
Right.
Go put a 6-pack on the counter or go buy the CBD product or whatever it is. And let's see if it's legit or not. And then if after it, we go back in, we issue the summons or we make the arrest. So they're serving alcohol to a minor. It's against their liquor license. They take the hit. So look, if he asks for ID, we can't hand him a fake ID. That doesn't work. Right. But we can BS him. I don't have my ID. I'm just trying to get a say. All right, just give me the money. You can go. And then we go back and issue the summons. And that affects his license and the way he does business. That's quality of life. Because then, and look, every kid, when they hit that age, they start to sneak alcohol and they start to do things, right? Yeah. So they're buying that 6-pack and they're going into the woods and they're getting drunk. And then when they're drunk, they're coming out and they may cause criminal mischief, smashing windows, urinating in public, sexual assaults.
Or hurting themselves, falling off.
Or hurt themselves. Yeah. And so their quality of life issues that we deal with on a daily basis. So by attacking it from the front line, meaning the service, those selling alcohol, is one of the methods. The other line is at home. Mom and dad allowing them to drink. Well, they drink at my house. Doesn't matter. He's under 21. I get it, but that's the law. And you let these kids leave here drunk and intoxicated and walk through the streets.
Yeah. As far as education goes, I think that's one of the things we need to flip. We need to flip the idea that alcohol is easier or a better replacement for marijuana. I think alcohol definitely has worse overall effects than, and that's I don't know, again, the picture. That's what I see.
Right.
I didn't have a team evaluate it, and just looking at it. And
we'll see in years.
I've known quite a few alcoholics that are in wheelchairs and still drinking, which is amazing to
Spoke
think.
to a guy, 25 years, just yesterday, 25 years drinking, new liver, everything he just got from his son gave it to him, and now he's 4 years sober. And he goes, I wish I was this smart 29 years ago.
Amen. Yeah. But it is an insidious disease, And the sad thing, I think nationally they're going to change marijuana. It's not going to be a Schedule I drug.
They're trying to make it a Schedule III, I believe.
Yeah, so that they can actually do testing on it and find out what else it's good for.
And the other part is, as a Schedule I narcotic, you can't use that money and put it into the banking system. So that's another one that they're trying to get around.
You think maybe that was the thing that drove the change?
It's always about the money.
It's always about the money.
It's not about the weed.
Yeah, it's so true. Okay, and now the big thing we got, this is the most talked about issue, or one of them certainly. This summer we have the pretty big event happening in Eisenhower Park, the International Cricket World Cup. The stadium they built, which is just temporary, but it's enormous.
It's gigantic.
What is the parking situation going to be, and how are you planning to keep everybody safe in order? How many cops is that going to take?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
So to give you a perspective, the Coliseum holds 16,000. The old Coliseum, right? Not the way they redesigned it, but it holds 16,000.
Right.
Over in UBS holds 18,000. Together, they don't hold as much as what this stadium holds. Stadium holds 35,000 people. It's built like an erector set. And, people are concerned about not on foundations and everything. These things are built all over the country like this. And look, I'm a builder, so I ask the questions, right. And the guy explains to me, because you can't. He goes, you can go in there and take out 15 rows and it ain't going to fall down. The way it's all connected.
Right.
So That's the stadium itself. But the Super Bowl gets viewed by 250 million people on Super Bowl Sunday. Cricket, India versus Pakistan, will be viewed by 1.2 billion people around the world. It's the largest sporting event in the world. And the biggest game is June 9th here in Nassau County. So what does that mean for me? I got Eisenhower Park. It's bigger than Central Park. People don't realize that. We got only 2 main gates. It's on Park Boulevard. That's the Turnpike and Merrick Ave. I got to get 35,000 people into a stadium. Gates open at 8:30 in the morning. Game starts at 10:30. So I got a 2-hour window. And when it's over at 2:30, and it's a hard stop at 2:30, unless they had a rain delay for an hour, but no matter what, nothing goes past 3:30. Now I got to get them out. And I got to get them out pretty quick because I want to open up some roads for the people going home. So where do they park? They're going to park it at the Coliseum parking lot. It's ride share and parking, and it's paid parking. But you get that with your ticket.
Right.
Using the college parking lot as the overflow parking lot. There's 2 big lots in the college. Many people will take the train. There'll be a shuttle bus that takes you from the train up in Westbury down.
Right.
There'll be a shuttle bus lined up out the Coliseum. So you can walk from the Coliseum over. It's a little bit more than a quarter of a mile. Not big. And if you watch the U.S. Open or any big, you go to Giant Stadium. Yes. You get a parking spot way out. You're a half a mile to the stadium.
Yeah.
So it's a short walk. Or you can get on the shuttle bus right outside on Charles Lindbergh, and we'll drive you in and drop you off by the Aquatic Center. It's a very controlled environment. So once you come inside the park, you're inside my outer perimeter. That's my first line of defense.
Right.
My second line of defense is the fence that goes around the stadium itself. And then obviously my third and most important is the field level presence that we have.
Right.
So if you take the shuttle bus or you walk, Coliseum. If you take the train, they'll shuttle you down on a bus. If you're part of the fanfare, like tourist buses that come in, they know where they're going to go, and they're also going to go by the Aquatic Center. You come in, you got to show a ticket, but every single person now, when you step inside that inner perimeter, will go through a magnetometer. And a new state-of-the-art magnetometer. You try to get a weapon in, a bomb or anything like that,
Sure.
You're going to get caught. We will have snipers involved. We have dogs involved. We have horses involved. We have lots of cops. We got undercovers. We got deep undercovers. We're using a massive intelligence sharing that's going on between the city, Suffolk County, New York State Police is a great partner of ours in this. And it's a lot of moving pieces.
No kidding. Ooh.
And it becomes that target because the lone wolf that sits at home, they've already put it out there, that, we should act out against, because of what's going on in Gaza, we should act out against the cricket tournament. So my job is to protect it. I'm not going to sleep till June 13th.
I bet.
Because it's just a lot. Yesterday, several meetings, one this morning. I'm going out. When I leave here, I'm going to go back. I was there this morning, look at some tenting that's going up. I'm going to go back again and look at the grounds to get the perspective and try to understand it. We have VIP parking inside the park. Those are very high rollers that pay a lot of money for a ticket there. Their cars will be scanned. They will be scanned. Nobody's going inside the perimeter. And the county executive said himself, I'm going through the perimeter, through it. Everybody's going through it. And he's right.
Yeah.
And we're going to make sure that everybody that goes inside that perimeter is safe. But I got a big giant park behind me that is closed for that week, the 12 days. Park Boulevard will open up at night to let cars and traffic go through. 6 o'clock in the morning, we shut it down. Maybe 6:30. We shut it down. And now we're at the point of nobody will be in that park except those that are working the event. And then we start letting the VIPs in and the rest of the ticketed guests in. And then again, we got to get them out. And then you got a business, the Lannon, who's in there. It's a great restaurant in Eisenhower Park. They want to open up at night. They got a restaurant business and they got a cigar lounge, and they want to get their business going. So we got to get them out of the park, open up the boulevard, let the Lannon go back to business. But there'll be no golf. There's one course that's open. You got to call up the Eisenhower Park, and you can get onto that course through the over by Salisbury Park Drive.
Right.
There is no softball fields being used, no pools being used, no ice skating rinks being used. The Islanders, if they were still in the playoffs, but they're not, would have had access and used this. But there's a rehab center in there, and there's a child care center in there. So we got to protect the child care, get them in, get them out during the event.
Right.
A lot of moving pieces.
The word logistics comes to mind.
How about stress comes to my mind?
Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, how long was the planning for this It
happened very quick. Look, my business is to adapt and adapt quickly to make things happen instantly. We have a window. We got pulled in about 3 months ago because it was never really locked down. But once it was locked down and the plans were decided, then the county exec did the press conference and let the world know. Right. It was supposed to go in the city, but the city didn't want it, so it's out here. It's a big event. So like I said to you before, the county exec's all about that, like trying new ideas, trying to bring new revenue to the county. Yeah. Everything goes fine. We look like heroes.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's a bet.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bet. But, everyone expects you to keep them perfectly safe, and they're not necessarily always amenable to the things you need to do that.
Some people that walk into that stadium are paying $20,000 for the ticket for the day, one day, right? Very wealthy people,
money to burn,
very high end, and they're coming from all over the world.
Yeah, that's
I can't give you the names of the people, but there's people coming from all over the world, and like I said, 1.2 billion people to watch Pakistan versus India. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah. Well, and also you're going to have people from all over the world in attendance.
That's correct.
That's got to add a little bit of, spice to what's normally, when you're dealing with your own local people, you're kind of on the same, but when you see some guy walking down, he's got a headband on and he's wearing a white robe and he looks like he's not from here.
Most of the people that are going to attend this game probably are coming from the city of New York or another place in the world. Right? You got Canada, Ireland, Bangladesh, India,
I don't see
Pakistan.
I don't see guys from Setauket, let's say, lining up to buy tickets to a cricket match.
We do have a large Middle Eastern community now in Nassau County, South Asian community in Nassau County. So they're all trying to get tickets. The regular fan tickets are reasonable. Right. Not that I'm paying for it, but reasonable. Yeah. Right. But there are people that are in their suites paying big dollars.
And I thought soccer was going to be, for years, we kind of knew soccer just didn't fit the American TV program. It had too long of a running play.
Right.
You couldn't, football every 30 seconds, it breaks and they get into a huddle and you can go to commercial.
In the United States, we want action. We want things to happen now.
Yeah, well, but our advertisers also wanted those moments when they could stick their 2 cents in and sell us something.
Yep.
And soccer didn't allow for that.
No.
Is cricket any different?
So they do have their breaks in it. It's a very complicated game to understand. So there's a thing called the pitch. And I think the pitch is about 10 feet or something of that nature by 60 feet. And I'm not exact on that. Right. But that's where the pitcher throws the ball to the batter. And the field is 360. You can hit the ball anywhere, but you only get so many balls and you only get so many pitches. So, and everything's a point system. If you hit the ball over the fence in the United States, you keep the ball.
That's a home run.
Not here.
Oh.
You got to give the ball back. So that's a big problem because some fans are like, I'm not giving the ball back, especially I'm a New Yorker. You get lost, buddy. We throw it back when Boston plays the Yankees. We throw it back when Big Papi hit a home run. We're not throwing it back when the guy from India hit it out. I'm keeping this as a souvenir. But so we got to say, no, the rules are different. You got to give the ball back. It's like football kind of. You got to throw the football back sometimes. So it's challenging the game to understand it. The pitch, the thing that's in the middle of the field, is valued at about $1 million. And it's grown in Florida. It was trucked up here. It was boomed over the stadium and it was dropped in the middle of the stadium. And then they put the grass in around it, the sod and everything else. Nobody wears a glove but the catcher. Everybody is barehanded. You do run bases, but not the way we run bases. And again, I'm throwing from the hip because I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be too interested in the game when it's done. It's just not something that excites me, right? But maybe I will,
Yeah.
So the perimeter around the field is probably the most protected area in the game. I'm going to have somewhere of 35 cops just surrounding the grass area along with another 30 security people. None of the stands enter the field area. Everything back exits. So nobody should be near this field or inside that perimeter where my people will be. You damage that, it could cost the whole tournament. And so we have security 24 hours a day on the grass. We were guarding grass now, not weed, grass. It's complicated.
There's a political cartoon in there somewhere.
I can't have a dog run out there and urinate in the middle of the pitch, right? So we're very big on our security and fenced-in areas.
Holy mackerel. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. But you know what? We're invested, and the county exec has said, listen, don't spare no expense to protect. We get a reimbursement from them. They are reimbursing for most of our security.
You're on the international field now, in essence.
Absolutely.
So whatever message you send.
Bigger than the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're right. And whatever message you send is going to be heard by the whole world, not just Nassau County.
I have my guys that are runners. I said, anybody tries to take the field, the streaker or what we call them nowadays, my guys are told, you go and you go as fast as you can and you take them out.
Yeah.
I said, tackle him as hard as you got to tackle him. He can't get to a player and you can't get to that pitch.
Oh, my God. Wow.
It's challenging.
It's like it sounds like a video game.
yeah. It ain't no game.
But it ain't no game. Too bad you couldn't just sit there with a joystick and,
and back out of it.
My God. Anything else you want to say to anybody? Go for it.
Now, listen, we are very fortunate in this county. We have a great police department, but we have a great police department because we have great partners. Something like this, getting on the radio show, explaining to people what we do and how we do it and why we do it. Right now, open house. There are roughly 800 kids from schools come once a day for the last 3 days over at our police academy, and we put the whole show and tell on for them. Guys rappel off the building. The helicopter lands. The dog comes over and shows what the dog does. Mounted is there with the horses. Marine Bureau shows what they do and stuff. And we're trying to build those partnerships, those relationships. Our clergy are great to us from all of the different religions here, and we are a melting pot here in Nassau County. Our community leaders, our political leaders. Look, there's parties, right? I work for a great Republican right now. But at the end of the day, we get support from across the board for most items, right? So that's unusual. Nobody's trying to shut us down in the police department. Like I said, Bruce Blakeman puts forward, he wants to expand his head count. He's going to get his head count expanded. And that's a good thing for protection of the people. The same with the volunteer fire service, but it's all about partnerships.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
My guest today has been Patrick Ryder, the Commissioner of Police with the Nassau County Police Department. And again, thank you for taking the time to be here for the past 2 weeks, actually, and promise us you'll be back and, come back soon and keep the conversation going. Always enjoy talking to you,
Definitely. Thank you.
But the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. I'm Bill McIntyre. Remember, you can listen to us by searching for this week's Long Island News wherever you listen to podcasts, and we're right here every Friday on the radio at 3 p.m. on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.